What up, everyone? This is Adam Quiney. 2 days before Christmas. And what I want to talk about tonight is the distinction of creating the life you want versus avoiding the life you don't want. And this is a very human, I guess everything I talk about is very human, but this is evolutionarily a very human trait. We are what's known as risk averse. So as humans, we tend to make decisions that minimize risk. And this is a good thing. It's saved us from being eaten by saber-toothed tigers. It saves us from doing crazy things that will get us killed. And if you think about it, that makes a lot of sense from an evolutionary kind of point of view. If you have a tendency to do crazy things and that kills you, then those genes aren't going to be around to reproduce. The people that have a tendency to sort of reduce their risk are more likely to reproduce, and so those genes will be sort of passed on, and the species grows in that direction. So on a grand scale, on an evolutionary scale, this is a great thing. It's really great that we're risk averse. But on an individual scale, and especially now in the modern era where we don't need to worry about saber-toothed tigers. We don't really need to worry about a lot of the stuff that our fear-based reactive kind of lizard brain is set up to protect us from. We don't need to worry about a lot of that stuff. And so what most people tend to do these days is unwittingly, they've brought this kind of thing into their day-to-day lives. And the way it shows up most commonly is that we avoid the life we don't want. One of the ways I can see this really clearly when I talk to people and I'm just curious about what they're up to, or someone comes to me and they're like, hey, I might want to work with a coach. I'd love to check that out. First thing I'm going to ask them is, well, what do you want? And very frequently, probably 75% of the time, the first words out of their mouth is what they don't want. People are very good at telling you what they don't want. I don't want this. I don't want that. And it takes a while as a coach to kind of like, first I want to hear that, get that out, but then got it. Okay, clear on what you don't want. What do you want? And this, part of the problem here is you can have anything you want in life. Truly you can. And, that probably draws some skepticism, but I really believe that's true. It's either possible or it's not. And I hold my whole profession and the work I do with people is with people that want to create the life of their dreams. If you want to create the life of your dreams, first you have to declare what that is. You have to actually say, that's what I want. Most of us build our lives around what we don't want. Here's some examples, some places I've done this. I don't want people to make fun of me. I don't want people to laugh about me behind my back. I don't want to sort of be out there in the world creating something, thinking I'm cool or I'm doing something that's neat or that I'm inspiring people, and to have those people making fun of me, or worse yet, pitying me. I don't want people to pity me. All things I don't want to have happen. And for a long while, for 30 plus years, I built a life around never having that stuff come to fruition. Now, of course, the punchline is that the best laid plans of mice and men, in spite of that, people still did all of those things. But for the most part, I created a life that was pretty solid in not having any of those things come to fruition. I learned how to dress really nice. I learned how to speak effectively. I learned how to talk in ways and be vigilant and to look for certain social cues that I could head it off at the pass and prevent that from happening. But the trouble is that when we focus our attention on preventing the things that we don't want, that's the life we're left with. So if you focus your attention on never being made fun of, you end up in a life where no one makes fun of you. But that's the life. Like, it's not, I have a life where no one makes fun of me and I'm making $1 million, because in order to have that second thing, you have to declare that. And part of the tension comes from sometimes in order to have that really juicy thing that you want, you've got to be willing to let people do that thing you don't want. In order to make, and I'm just using this as an example, but in order to make that $1 million, if that's what's important to you, you might have to be willing to have people laugh at you. I mean, the mere fact of saying, I want to make $1 million this year, to a lot of people is ridiculous. And even just saying that much, they might be like, that's ridiculous. And if you're fixated on creating a life where no one laughs at you, a reasonable life, as I would call it, you're inevitably going to cut out any possibility of living an unreasonable life. And that's leadership right there. Leadership is unreasonable because it's beyond what is known. Leaders create something outside of what we currently know, outside of the current paradigms. That's inherently unreasonable. And so I think that distinction can be of great service to you, is to look at the areas in your life where you've set things up, or where you're making choices based out of what you don't want instead of what you do want. Another way to describe this is avoiding the breakdown instead of going for the breakthrough. And that's where coaching really throws a wrench into people's lives, because for the most part, we go through our lives avoiding the breakdowns. And in coaching, we're actually playing for people to create the breakthroughs, because that's what they want. They want something outside of what they know, outside of what's typical, outside of the incremental step-by-step growth. They want the exponential thing. That requires a willingness to go for the breakthrough instead of avoiding the breakdowns. I don't want people to laugh at me. Well, maybe that's the breakdown that stands in front of you actually having everything you want. And the best way to avoid that breakdown is to put all your attention on not having it. Sorry, what I really mean to say is the best way to avoid that breakthrough is to put all your attention on avoiding the stuff that might be required to create that breakthrough. So creating the life you want versus avoiding the life you don't want. Catch yourself. Start to notice the language you use when you talk about what you don't want, and practice, actually, here's what I do want. And you can practice this anywhere in your life. You can go to a restaurant and be as specific as you like. Stop telling people what you don't want and tell people what you do want. When someone says, like your partner, you see this all the time. I see it often when I'm coaching people in romantic relationships, but you can see it in any relationship. You'll say, like, just notice how you interact with your partner. And do you tell them what you want, or do you tell them what you don't want? So play with this. Take this idea and just watch yourself. Where am I willing to ask for what I really want? And where do I instead just focus on what I don't want? The invitation is to actually play for this one. Play for creating the life you want. All right, 2 more days till Christmas. I'm excited. Happy holidays to everyone.